Hello and welcome to episode 23 of the Verbal to Visual podcast. I am your host, Doug Neill, and on this show, you get to listen to one-on-one coaching calls that I have with folks who are developing and using their sketchnoting skills. Today, I'm chatting with Tansy Lewis, who is bringing sketchnoting to her two work projects. One that supports parents, teachers, and students as they prepare for national exams in the Bahamas, where Tansy lives, and another that supports folks who are also building an e-learning business. In our conversation, we chat about how Tansy might apply her growing sketchnoting skills in both of those areas, with a sustainable workflow in mind. For show notes, as well as the video version of today's episode, head on over to verbaltovisual.com/23. Let's get into it.
I am located in the Bahamas, and currently I have a project. It is a business, but I look at it more as a project called the Student Shed. I've been doing it for 9 years. And so I help parents and teachers and students prepare for our national exams. So that would be primary and secondary school students. And I've always wanted to find a way to share information that was interactive. So when I found out about sketchnoting, I immediately jumped on it and I fell in love with it. And now I want to integrate sketchnoting with my business. However, I've never done that before, and my audience is not accustomed to seeing sketch notes or seeing sketch notes from me. And so being a beginner, also taking into consideration that I am a beginning sketch noter and they're not accustomed to seeing sketch notes. I guess from the marketing standpoint, I know I can easily integrate it into a learning resource. I guess I'm wondering, how can I go about integrating it? Also finding more time to sketchnote. And also I'm starting a new project, which I had kind of mentioned in the community. And with this new project, I definitely want sketchnoting to be a big part of it, even if it's like a little sketch note in every email newsletter or something. And I guess whatever feedback you can give, whatever ideas based on the kind of business that I'm doing too. And keeping in mind, I'm also a beginning sketchnoter. So I'm willing to start small and just grow with that. I don't have a problem sharing my sketch notes in public, but I think it would have to be a small sketch note or something that I feel comfortable with the video, like how I produce the video sketch note. I feel comfortable with the video, but to put together one beautiful sketch note that's a static image for people to look at again and again, I'm not very comfortable with that. I feel like we have to be a little bit more detailed to do something like that versus putting together a video. I mean, it's just my thoughts. I'm not sure.
Yeah. That's interesting. There's a lot of good things going on here. I have a few follow-up questions. One of which is, I'm curious if the kind of second business or second project that you're working on, is that connected to kind of the first one as far as similar audience or similar topics, or is it kind of going in a different direction?
Well, I'll tell you in which way it's similar. I run an e-learning company right now, but the new project is a project in which I take more of a curating or an editorial stance where I'm helping other people who want to develop e-learning communities and e-learning businesses. So it's a different audience, but it's just still in the e-learning business, but more from the standpoint of teaching and helping other e-learning creators instead of producing products for students and parents. So I guess it's not similar in that in that many ways.
Well, I like that model though. It's kind of like a nice, meta approach that I'm also attracted to as well. Kind of like once, because you have this personal experience running an e-learning business, the kind of next level up, or I think what's fun for anyone in those situations, if you enjoy that style of business and that style of project, is to like create a space where you can talk about and share resources about that type of business.
Right.
And I like that you're kind of taking a curating approach to that piece of it, where you're spending plenty of time creating educational resources in your primary business. So when chatting about e-learning in general and helping others do it, having more of a curation approach, but still bringing in your own experiences.
Right.
I think that's awesome. Next, why don't you talk me through some of the sketch notes you've shared here, just to get a feel for some of your work.
Okay, so this first one, yeah, characteristics of living organisms. So I thought maybe an easy way to get started with adding sketch notes to my existing project is to do little like sketch note flashcards, kind of, with little bits of study material in small chunks, because it seems, manageable to just put together something like that. So that was what that was. And I didn't do any more, unfortunately. I mean, I guess that's my time issue there again, but that's what that is about.
Nice.
Um, let's see. Then there's this one here that okay. So I was just filling in the form that you had added to the course,
Yeah.
and it's just saying that I'm helping teachers and other educators and online trainers. So this would be for the e-learning creators business, and it's describe the content surrounding the idea sharing. Yeah, sketchnote cards, sketchnote video. Yeah, I feel comfortable
Mm-hmm.
with creating sketchnote cards and sketchnote videos. I do, because I create videos for other things, so I see where I can comfortably create sketchnote videos. And at the bottom there, sketchnote, blog post, email newsletter. So at the top of my email newsletter, I figure it would be nice to put a little sketchnote related to the topic on e-learning. Yeah, and the impact that I hope to have on the audience, build their confidence to build e-learning products and help them with their online business. So that's kind of what that's about.
Nice.
The sketch note at the bottom of the living organisms, you had a prompt that said, instead of sending a written message to someone, send a sketch note. And
Yeah.
so as I was at home, just at one evening, because I like to try and get some sketchnoting in at night, I thought I would send my husband a message, even though he was right in the room with me. So I drew this up and I WhatsApped it to him.
Nice.
And I wanted to practice drawing people, because it's a struggle that I have, drawing people in different positions. So that's something I have to practice more of.
That's
Under
great. I love that you ran with that exercise. It's a fun one.
Yeah, that is fun. Underneath that, the fill in the circles.
Mm.
This is just what came to me at the time. I figured, in the mindset again of my e-learning business, I figured, okay, e-learning content, ideas, and methods. Like if someone wanted to find out, hey, I want to create an e-learning product, what can I do? So I figure, okay, why don't you can learn how to sketchnote, you can learn how to do backyard gardening, or play the piano, or speak Spanish, or build a house, or teaching mathematics. There's so many things you can create an
Mm.
e-learning product from. So that's what the
Mm-hmm.
branching off is. And then the big four circles are the four methods that you can use to create these e-learning products. You can do it with video lessons, or audio lessons, or annotated slide presentations, or maybe gamify it with games and quizzes. So that's what that is. And I'm thinking I may improve on this and add that to my e-learning business, something along those lines. Like that's a way to kind of add some sketchnoting to it. I mean, that's an idea for that.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love what that sparks, even just in
Yeah.
me looking at that. So I can imagine something like that opening up possibilities in others too, when they see, yeah, what an e-learning business could look like, and the different directions you could take it, and different
Right.
formats. Love it. How about this one?
And the one to the side there, yeah, that's the final sketch note based on the video
Mm-hmm.
that I created. And I always laugh at the person at the computer, because I have trouble drawing people.
Hey, it's great. It's very clear what that person is up to. So I think you're doing a great job.
Okay, so with this one, I like your style, Doug. I like that your style is clear. It's kind of, to me, it's kind of contemporary and clean. And so I was inspired by your style when I created this one, and then I just added some color to it. But I'm thinking I would like to start simple and then just grow from there. And I look at this as a simple video presentation I had done because, like I said, this is the sketch note from the video. It was done in 3 sections. That was that
Mhm.
first section of the video, then the second, and then the third. So this was and the teachers and students of my existing business. So I saw where that was one way to integrate it into it. So I'm really just interested in, I guess, kind of using my existing audience to practice.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And even though I feel like you mentioned early on that you feel like a beginner sketchnoter, that you're new to this, I mean, I think your competency and mastery in sketchnoting is farther along than you think it is. That would be my first piece of feedback, that these visuals that you've shared here are very clear and engaging, and I think you do a great job of using imagery and color and layout and fonts, like all the basics, the core pieces of sketchnoting that I kind of like reference within the intro course. I think you've got those down. So
Thank you.
yeah, I hope you uh, grow in your confidence of it, because the skills are there from my perspective.
Thank you.
Um, and yeah, I see potential in continuing to use and practice and build your skills with your current audience, with kind of students and parents in mind, and then also using it for the new business.
Right.
Um, so that's great. I feel like that gives me a good overview of kind of what you're up to and your current work. What's a first question maybe that you want to explore from there?
Maybe, I guess, how do I integrate well, my time is tight. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering, how do I still just get it in there? How do I practice more with my existing audience? And I mean, how do you know that you're not offending anyone with these drawings? It's like, what is she doing? What did she just send me? This is, so, I don't want to offend anyone with my drawings, but I want to practice. So I don't know. I mean, maybe just how to ease it in there on a
Yeah.
regular basis.
Yeah. Well, I honestly, like, I would be surprised if you would offend anybody. I mean, I think especially within the education community, working with students and parents, particularly, I mean, since primary and secondary is the audience, like I might imagine the situation differently if you were at like a university level, but even there, like in terms of how other folks respond to sketch notes as a format for communicating ideas. Like you might have seen the work and some conversations that Caroline Isabel and I have had, who's a
Right.
university professor in Canada, and doing a cool integration of sketch notes into like course roadmaps and university lectures
Right. I've
that have
seen some.
gotten, yeah, a very positive response among her colleagues. Her challenges kind of getting students at that university level who are already used to kind of learning in different ways, like
Right.
get them over that barrier of like, I don't want to draw,
Yeah.
or like not necessarily seeing the value in it, or mostly just not wanting to do things differently than they've done them
Right.
in the past. It seems like you don't won't have that barrier. So I mean, I don't think you have to worry about offending anybody. Um, so I say don't worry about that. If that helps me just saying that, I know it's easier said than done potentially. But then from the time perspective, I like to think about kind of sustainable workflows. I feel like I'm always thinking about kind of workflows and processes with what I do at Verbal to Visual, and even just like how that connects to things going on inside the community, and also trying to kind of make a YouTube video every week or so, like how best to do my own sketchnoting and also sketchnoting instruction So I kind of slowly built up systems that I feel like work well for me and kind of make it easier for me to structure my work days in somewhat consistent ways
Right.
and identify like where sketchnoting comes in and like the role that it serves in different projects and kind of maintaining that balance for me of having some time to do my own sketchnoting projects to like keep me close to this skill and also doing lots of kind of resource sharing and having conversations like these, like connecting with others around this skill. So you had mentioned that like one, I think this was with the newer project, maybe like maybe with your email newsletter, there's like one, sketchnoted idea, maybe something that's like more along the lines of this sketch note here of like what are your plans for tomorrow, like
Right.
for that scale as opposed to the very polished three topic thing that came from the video. Like, so there's a little bit of expectation setting here. Like, don't set the expectation for yourself to create this full and nuanced of a sketch note like every day.
Right.
Maybe you could like make one of these once a month or something, but I enjoy, the smaller chunking of what it is that you're creating and how you're sharing it.
Okay.
um
That's good. Yeah.
yeah, so
I didn't
that
think to
email
go at that level.
yeah, I mean, even this, especially in something like an email newsletter, um I think folks are probably, depending on what their inbox looks like. They might be used to seeing like text and photos in the things that they receive in their inbox, but probably not a lot of like text and sketched images.
Right.
So even something as simple as this sketch that you shared, like that'll stand out a little bit and
Right.
I think cause people to pay more attention than they might otherwise.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one place to maybe kind of sustainably build sketchnoting into your workflow.
Yeah.
Can you think of others where you might want to weave a small to medium sized sketch note into something that's kind of already going on regularly?
Well, let's see. With the existing business, there is the email. Well, there's, I share on social media. Right now, I have a series going on with like a did you know tip related to a certain topic like science or math or physics or something. So maybe it can be integrated there in social media with sharing.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I'm thinking maybe that in that way.
Quick question about that type of social media share and that creation. Uh, One thing that I think about and that has actually come up in kind of previous conversations, the most recent one I'm thinking of is episode 20, I think with Stephanie Gorman. We talked about kind of creating building blocks, right? Like, how can maybe these small sketch notes, um, how can you approach the creation of these smaller sketch notes in a way that they might be able to build up to something bigger?
Ah, right.
So that's what came to mind when you mentioned this idea of these kind of did you know sketch notes, because those sound like cool little I think you even described like sketch note flashcards, almost like a
Yeah.
little mini one
Yeah.
of those, but then it could build up to something bigger like your characteristics of living organisms, like
Right.
um those little chunks could build up to a fuller mind map or infographic or something like that. So that might be another thing to think about as you're kind of weaving smaller sketch notes into the things you're doing regularly.
Yeah.
What might those smaller chunks like build up to?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So like a study notes. Hmm. Oh, let's see. In my country, there's not a lot of e-learning material, specifically related to like our history and social studies. So
Mm, yeah.
yeah, and so there's not a lot of even, I guess, clip art
Hmm.
or sketches of concepts, things, like, for example, the conch shell is, we eat a lot of conch and there's not a lot of details on the conch. But what I can do, I can create little images because apart included
Hmm.
with sketchnoting, I like to trace. I like to trace
Oh
images
yeah,
and
no, that's great.
yeah. So maybe I can start with creating like images and a little bit of information. And then those images can eventually lead to a full page of study notes on a certain topic, or like an image of the former prime minister and then a little information about him. And eventually I'll have a whole page of information about this guy, you
Hmm.
know? So that's one way to kind of do little chunks that build up to something big. I like that idea of, taking it on a smaller level. So but also in an
Hmm.
organized, strategic fashion, so it builds up to something. I guess I'm thinking like chapters in a book, or less. I mean, of course, smaller than that, but with the mindset of you're creating this chapter, but eventually you're gonna have a full book.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how that's specific to like where you live and like the region that you're working in. And it sounds like too you've noticed where there's a lack of resources, like about like e-learning resources specific to the Bahamas. And like you're in a perfect position to like fill that gap. Um, and my sense is too is that like by both sharing those individual chunks, individual ideas on social media, and then the bigger things that might come from those, I bet that will also like as over time as folks are searching for e-learning resources specific to the Bahamas, like your stuff is gonna probably kind of come up pretty naturally,
Yeah,
especially if there's not much out there already. So that could be another good way to bring folks to your work,
right.
both your kind of current work, but then the new project as well that might pique folks' interest.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. Well, those are a few ideas to run with. Has anything else kind of like sparked your interest or that you feel like commenting on from our conversation so far?
Well, as you were talking, I was reminded of the fact that, from what you shared in your sketch notes about your workflow, when I first watched it, I thought, wow, that's awesome to be able to segment your days in such a way where Monday you do this, Tuesday you do this, and at the end of the day, you're finished. You've completed not just one thing, but so many different things. Because as a as a business owner, you have a lot of things you need to do, especially being a sole proprietor. Being the one doing everything for the most part. So you wear many hats. You need to be able to get it done every week. And so I'm just thinking about being able to do the same, so that I can get more sketchnoting done and, be more strategic.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will say too that those like daily and weekly workflows, I find that they almost like, yeah, I guess you could call them routines or workflows. I find that they do shift and evolve relatively frequently. I
Yeah,
always feel like, when I stumble upon a new workflow for my day or for my week that like just seems to run so smoothly, I'm it's so easy to fall into that trap of like, yes, I found the one workflow or routine that's going to work for me forever.
right,
And, a month later, 6 months later, it's like, this isn't working anymore. There's like some
right.
tension in the system, and like that causes you to adapt.
Yeah,
So I want to just like acknowledge that one, I think it is worthwhile to kind of fine tune your daily routine and your weekly workflow to hopefully get it to a place where it runs smoothly, but also acknowledge that like at some point that system probably will stop working. Some sort of kink will uh, occur, or yeah, there will be some sort of tension, or it won't quite be as sustainable as it once was. Um, so being willing to adapt those.
I'm very happy you mentioned that because I've experienced the same thing. So I would have a workflow that works for time being, and then I have to change it. But while I had it, it worked fine. So
Yeah.
maybe the fact that projects change too. So with different
Right.
types of projects and obligations, you'll need a different kind of workflow. Like um, when I put together my task to build the e-learning creators ELC, I didn't have certain things on my schedule. Now I have a big chunk I'm creating 7 primary school courses right now, and I didn't expect
Wow.
to do that. And so it's put a delay. And so now my workflow that I had created
Mm.
initially is different. But I'm very happy you mentioned that, because I looked at you and I said, wow, he's really getting it done. I mean,
Sometimes
you
I feel
are,
that way.
but
Other times I'm like, ugh, it's like I don't feel like I'm making progress with anything. But like, I think those balance each other out. Like, you'll go through those periods where you're feeling in the zone, others where it's feeling like slow. But yeah, on the whole, I think they can balance themselves out. And I think my current approach, yeah, I feel like I've gone back and forth too between sometimes I have emphasized like my daily routine, like setting aside different chunks of my day for different types of work. And like I try to be satisfied and like, okay, so long as I've, you know, bring my attention to those tasks in more or less the chunks that I've identified, that's where I derive like satisfaction and sense of completion.
right,
I think there have been other periods where I have been more focused on those weekly routines. For instance, if I like want to publish a video every Thursday, then like I have clearly identified to do that. Here's what I have to finish by Monday. Here's what I have to finish by Tuesday. Here's what I have to finish by Wednesday. Um, so sometimes like that has been the focus to just prioritize a publishing schedule, for
right,
example. So those are kind of like the two spaces that you can play around with also.
right.
Uh, can you see how the things that we've been describing in terms of the maybe a sketch within an email newsletter, but also the social media posts? Do you have a sense for where those might fit within either your daily routine or weekly workflow?
I can very quickly, or I should say, I can more easily get started with adding a sketch note to the email newsletter, especially if I'm thinking now on an even smaller scale than what I had originally thought.
Mm-hmm.
And because I have already a draft editorial calendar kind of for my email newsletter,
Mm-hmm.
I can start putting those sketches together at night when I'm sketching. So now I'm
There you
actually
go.
sketching with a purpose, and it's a small sketch. So that's actually very inspiring, because now I can look back at that and say, hey, I know so many weeks or next week I'm going to be emailing about this. Let me start maybe looking at some drawings online if I don't already know how to sketch it, and put together something that's my own. And if it's small, if it's a small sketch, I feel comfortable, like I can commit to it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, because it sounds like you have this time of day where you've started to kind of work on the skill. And I like too that it's, your work day is done. Presumably you're more or less relaxed and have this opportunity to kind of play around in a pretty low pressure way. And as you've mentioned, that can be a nice time to do something like practice activities like sketching out a text to your partner, your friend, your whatever. Or it could be kind of more purposeful,
Right.
something that maybe you would include within an email newsletter. And
Yeah.
that's kind of motivating too, because I don't know, that is one of those small things that I think can give you a sense of momentum with
Yeah.
your work in a specific project. So
Yes.
I like that.
And then at night, sometimes I'm sitting there on my iPad thinking, what should I sketch? And lots of times I go back to your book, your
Mm,
notebook with the prompts, and so I end up there.
cool.
But so now I have ideas, of what I can
Mm,
sketch.
yeah, that's great. I think what'll be curious or what could be interesting too is if when you're doing those kind of nighttime sketches connected to a topic that will be going out in an email newsletter, do you already have kind of the written piece of the newsletter done or just the topic identified?
So far, just the topic.
Yeah, well, that could actually be good because like the drawing or the sketch note could like get your gears turning around like what do I actually want to say about this topic? Um,
Yeah, that would be good, because
yeah,
sometimes I'm stumped there. But okay, how do I start? How much? What do I say? Yeah, it's a struggle.
yeah. So maybe like as you're doing those sketches, there could be some place you also maybe just keep some like bullet point notes about like, ooh, here's some like some of the text, some of the narrative maybe that I want to include within that newsletter. Because then not only are
Yeah.
you doing some cool sketchnoting, you're also
Getting work done.
getting work done. Using
Killing two
that.
birds with one stone.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's an example of where like sketchnoting can really fit into your work nicely and facilitate both the work itself, but then also amplify the message once you get it out there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Cool. Well, that might be a really nice kind of tangible takeaway from our conversation today as we kind of start to wrap it up. Does that feel like a good stopping
Yes,
point and good thing to run with?
that is good because that will, I'll feel really good knowing that it's in the email. I'm sketching, it's getting done. Even though it's small, I feel great because I know these small things will eventually build up to something cohesive, and I can eventually use it. And you can reuse elements. You can reuse your sketchnote elements to create a bigger piece of. So yeah,
Absolutely.
that's great.
Awesome. That's so cool. Well, I've added a little checks box there to kind of represent the follow up. And if you think of it, and if you're comfortable, I'd love to see how these come together. If at some point in the future you want to share a few of those
Yep.
Kind of newsletter sketches or anything about the process, I know we'd love hearing about that inside Verbal to Visual. So that's a good place to follow up if you'd like to.
I will. Yeah, I will. Gives me encouragement to do it.
Yeah. That's great. Awesome. Well, Tansy, thank you so much for chatting. It's fun to see you, hear your voice, get to know you a little bit. I'm excited about the work you're doing. I think you're doing great things, and already the way you've been implementing sketchnoting within your work, I think is awesome. And I hope you continue to enjoy exploring from here.
Thank you very much, Doug, for your help. I
My
really
pleasure.
appreciate it.
Yeah, it's fun. These conversations energize me as well. So I love having them. I hope you enjoyed that conversation and that it sparked some ideas for how you might weave sketchnoting into your work. Tansy did indeed follow up on the plans we discussed and created some sketch notes for her email newsletter. To see those, head on over to the show notes for today's episode at verbaltovisual.com/23. There you'll also be able to join Verbal to Visual if you'd like to tap into all of our complete at your own pace online courses to help you grow your sketchnoting skills, as well as weekly live workshops and one-on-one coaching calls like what you just heard. And you'll get to connect with other visual thinkers from around the globe, like Tansy. You can learn more at verbaltovisual.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to sharing another conversation with you next time. Till then.